We had something from Jeff. He wanted to know, what do you make of the ESPN versus college football playoff standoff? Okay, so what Jeff is talking about here is something that's been going on for a little while. And as you know, if you listen to the show or watch the show, I've vaguely referenced this a time or two or three or four, and that is the 2026 playoff and beyond is not decided. And I don't mean there are bells and whistles. There are I's to dot and T's to cross. I have meant literally that. Nothing's decided. It is a blank slate. Okay, so the thinking has been that even though that's the case, these people will eventually get it figured out, and they will come to a consensus on not only whether there's going to be 12 teams or not, what the format's going to be. And for the record, as I'm recording this, news just came down that they have adopted the 5-7 format for the 12-team playoff over the next 2 years, and that just means they're going to have 5 auto bids instead of 6, and they're going to be 7 at-large spots instead of 6. You know my thoughts on that. I'm not a big auto bid guy anyway. But anyway, so they'll get that figured out, and then they'll get the carriage package, or the carrier package figured out, the TV media rights deal package, where you're going to watch the games, in other words. There's just a blind assumption they'll get all that done. Okay, so then we've seen reporting from The Athletic recently that's indicated, well, there is a tentatively finalized deal between ESPN and the college football playoff. It's over $1 billion per year, and they're ready to press play on it right now. But it still has to be ratified. It still has to be accepted by this other playoff committee over here. And that hasn't happened yet. The commissioners and whatnot, that hasn't happened yet. And it's being presented as a standoff. And earlier today, Stuart Mandel with The Athletic, he teamed up with Andrew Marchand and Nicole Auerbach, Chris Vanini. A number of people contributed to this piece over on The Athletic. But there was a quote. There was a quote in the article, and it's meant to fearmonger, but your boy here just had hearts for eyes reading this. There was a quote in this piece that said, and this is someone speaking. This is not them editorializing. This is an anonymous source speaking to them. The source said, "What's the alternative? No playoff?" said a source involved in the discussions. "That's not feasible. That would be a disaster." Really? Would it? Would no playoff be a disaster? God forbid we go back to, 2004 or 7 or 9. But what terrible, just out in the wilderness years those were for college football. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm being told college football was awesome back then. Anyway, it wouldn't be. But they will get it done. Make no mistake. This is not some fantasy world I'm living in, trying to drag you into. They will get it done. I selfishly, now I'm going to speak purely from a selfish perspective here, wish that it would be taken to market, and I wish more networks would bid on it. I'd love to see my company bid on it. I'd love to see Fox put in a big bid. I would love to see it look like the NFL playoffs, because that's one thing I think that league gets right that we haven't had, and that is, if you're going to have a big playoff, have everyone in on it instead of one network holding the entirety of the cards. Now, for the record, before I move on here, the way it seems like this is going to work, regardless of whether ESPN gets the whole package or not, is even if they get the whole package, they reserve the right to do what is called sub-licensing games. And that's where ESPN, own the rights to the entire playoff. But if you, NBC, come to me and say, we'd love to pay $100 million for 2 of the first-round playoff games, I have the right to sell those to you, and you can broadcast them, and they're NBC broadcasts, but I own them. It's kind of like, and I know you're already thinking this, so I'll say it. It's kind of like in the train world where you have shared power. You know, we're a CSX city, for example, here in Nashville, but sometimes there's a Norfolk Southern engine that's rolling through. And what's happened is Norfolk Southern has borrowed a CSX engine somewhere in like Washington. And so they're letting you return the favor. And so all of a sudden you have foreign power on CSX trackage here in Nashville. And it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. Well, that's the same way in 2028 if you've got Michigan at Arkansas, and what a first-round matchup that would be for many reasons. And all of a sudden ESPN owns the game, but it's on Fox. Well, how did that happen? Sub-licensing is how it happened.